what does the greatest of all time really mean? The two definitions that I've found are the ultimate incarnation of the greatest basketball player to ever play, as well as the best basketball player to ever compete. Now, does this mean it's the athlete that's the most genetically and athletically gifted? Or does it mean the athlete that's closest to perfection in skill and accolades? It's obvious that the GOAT is the basketball player who is the closest to perfection in skill and accolades. With that being said, LeBron James is not eligible for the GOAT debate as he does not have the accolades to pair with his skill. On top of the fact that there are many stats and moments throughout his career that demonstrate he is not the closest to perfection in both skill and accolades. For example, and most egregious, is a 40% win ratio in the finals. No master of anything is completing their task at a 40% rate. They're operating closer to 100%. That is why he's immediately disqualified, because he has these moments, these stats, these highlights of his career where the greatest of all time would never settle or leave that imprint on his resume. Now, for a complete breakdown of the Jordan versus LeBron debate, go check out Jordan vs. LeBron, the best GOAT comparison by Danger Productions, and judge for yourself. The video could end here as it's that easy to disqualify Fogo James from the debate. But what's the fun in that? Let's go over some of my favorite arguments these fanboys make. I find the most common is, you only talk rings, so by your standard, Bill Russell is the GOAT and it's not even close. This one makes me laugh because it's illogical if you think about it. Now, to me, the personal experience that made me realize that the golden age legends like Russell can't compete with MJ was when I started playing soccer in Canada. At least, Bill has the resume to compare to the GOAT, unlike Fogo James. I'll give him that. I'm Latino and slightly above average athletically that grew up in a small town in Canada. My cousins taught me how to play soccer when I was young, and when I started playing house league, I was scoring with ease by relying on my athleticism and skill. After a couple years, I was asked to join the select team, which is built with the best players in house league to compete with the best players of other leagues. I was still able to score and rely on my athleticism, but it wasn't as easy. I was then recruited to play semi-competitive soccer with a local club to compete provincially and nationwide. I was able to perform at a level where I made the team, but was not good enough to be a starter because I had never learned how to play the game as a team player. I felt lost in practice and at first was always out of position. But I eventually got better and became just an average player in the league. This example is how I think of the golden era of basketball. Back in the day, when the majority of players were not as skilled or athletic as the players today, it was far easier to get to the finals. The league was also smaller with less teams, plus the tournament was set up differently than today's playoffs. Due to these facts, it was easier for golden era legends to dominate an unskilled and fairly unathletic league. I relate that golden era to the time when I started house league and was scoring multiple times a game, and my team usually won the end of season tournament. The strength of competition I faced was so low that my accolades in hindsight weren't that impressive. When the strength of competition increased when I was moved to the select team, I found that it wasn't as easy scoring and the tournament was competitive every year. To me, that time feels like the era after the golden era of basketball and before the 80s and 90s, where the strength of competition began to increase significantly past the previous eras to where the skill level now is almost unfathomable in 2022. When I played competitive soccer, I relate that to the modern era of basketball, where the strength of competition is at a level where the players with accolades from this time shine so bright. This brings me back to why it makes me laugh when Fogo James fanboys say, well, if it's all about the rings, then the GOAT is Bill Russell. The strength of competition in his time was so low that his rings don't mean as much as the 6 that MJ won. I ask myself, if we took an average center from today and dropped him in the NBA the same year Bill Russell started playing, would he still have won so many rings playing versus a player with average skills for today's era, but superior skills for his time? What if we took a slightly above average center and then dropped them in? Would Bill Russell win 6? What if we took an all-star center? Would Bill Russell even win 1? Bill Russell was a great athlete for his time, but if we sent back in time DeAndre Ayton to compete with him after growing up with modern athletic training, better nutrition, and developing a higher basketball IQ, Bill Russell would not be able to compete with him. Back in the day, players held day jobs or lived an unhealthy lifestyle compared to modern athletes. These advantages alone would be enough to derail his career. So with that being said, do any of these legends really have a claim to the GOAT debate due to the strength of competition they face regardless of the resume they possess? Another hilarious argument I hear is the cliche longevity of his career and everything that comes with that. Yes, LeBron James has some impressive moments and records that he has accumulated throughout his long career, but he doesn't have the ones that count the most, like the defensive accolades, a high win rate in the finals, or the number of titles to equal or better MJ. As impressive as making it to 10 finals is, it is not as impressive as winning just 1 title. With that being said, I would rank most players with 1 title and accolades ahead of LeBron if all he had was 10 finals appearances and the accolades that he's accumulated because of the longevity of his career. I'm not one of those MJ fanboys that say there's absolutely nothing he can do to qualify himself for the debate and could never be the GOAT because there is nothing he could do. For example, if he were to win just 1 Defensive Player of the Year in the tail end of his career, I think it would be compelling enough to argue that versus MJ's defensive accolades. Also, if he were to win 4 more and finish with 8 chips and 6 losses, that could stand the scrutiny of the GOAT debate. Lastly, if he were to do something incredible like make a deep run into the playoffs in his final year with his son on his team, the narrative alone is so compelling that it almost creates an accolade that stands on its own that MJ can't match. There are probably other accolades or moments he could add to his resume that I can't think of, but would help him qualify for the debate. Unfortunately, I like to judge things by the probability that it'll happen, not the possibility of them happening. So I don't foresee LeBron accomplishing enough by the end of his career to earn his position in the GOAT debate. That's not a bad thing though. LeBron, in my opinion, is the greatest of a category of his own. That being the greatest physical specimen any sport has ever seen. Let's be real, the man hit the genetic lottery, and then we were lucky he became an athlete and not a construction worker. He is also built so well that he has been able to evade massive injuries and recover from the injuries that he suffered at such a superhuman level. So LeBron has earned his spot in the all-time list, and when all is said and done, I think he will settle somewhere between 3 and 15, because as the new generation begins their careers, they have the advantage of more advanced medicine to increase longevity. They'll also have better athletic training. Their nutrition and rest would also be better, on top of other factors that would contribute to future players extending their careers in the league. With that being said, all that it takes is one player to do what LeBron has accomplished, but more efficiently, and they will easily leapfrog the king on the all-time list. So that's why I say that in 10 or 20 years, LeBron could settle somewhere around 3 to 15 all-time. And of course, if someone has surpassed MJ, I don't doubt that he will also drop in the all-time list, just like the previous GOATs before him. I'll leave you guys there for now. Please subscribe and like the video, as well as leave a comment below. In case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.